All right, good evening, folks. Welcome to Monday Night Law here. What is it, August 19th? Yep, August 19th, 2024. Cruising on through the summer. Literally, for me. Went for a nice, long, 340 some, almost 350-mile Harley ride Saturday. Whew! That was one heck of a ride, let me tell you. Good times, some good people. Got some two-wheel therapy in, some throttle therapy. Got some vroom vroom in there. Hope everybody else is enjoying their summer. It was hot. It was nice in the morning. Then it got hot. But made it through it. Did all right. Yeah, save that. Yeah, I guess. Okay. Evening there, Jed Clampett and Cece. You're over on YouTube tonight, huh? Not on Facebook. Okay. View live stream here. Make sure that's going. Okay. Dazel Days, good to see you, brother. I was just over on Jason, his with Jason over on his hardline, and talking about this stuff. The Confederate Republic, you know? The good stuff about our form of government, which is part of what I've been covering for the last 3 weeks now. And reading from Montesquieu in his The Spirit of Laws, in his writings from the early 1700s. So long before our Confederate Republic was created. James, good to see you. Jax, Mark. And everybody over here on Telegram. Interesting enough, over here on Telegram, it's been really quiet since I switched it over to private. No trolls, no, no spam of really of any kind. So I'm liking that. I'm sure everybody else is too. But also kind of brings something up about Jason had brought up on his podcast there, was that people talking about how they're no longer supporting Trump and they're going to vote for Kamala Harris. Really? I'm thinking that's a bunch of AI gibberish, right? Weird. Yeah, I'm noticing that CC, no notifications on Facebook. Is it even working on Facebook? I didn't even bother to check because usually I get my everything comes through over here on my broadcasting software, where I see comments from YouTube, and when it allowed me to have X broadcast live, I would see the X comments. So I don't know what's going over on Facebook, if it's even working. It should be, but good old technology, right? Yeah, yeah, it's live on Facebook on my page. 5 minutes now, so everything's good there. One like and 9 shares, so that's good. Wendy, good to see you. Dreaming Deer. Walter Douglas. Chicago Begins. Good. Eagle Freedom, good to see you. Stephen Weber. Right? James, you're a Redskin. Dude, let me tell you. We started out at about 8:30. Rode over to Buddy's place there to meet up with a bunch of other people, and we took off out of there at about 9:45, and made it back home to where the bike rests. It's actually my mom's boyfriend. He's got 5 different Harleys, and he's kind enough to let me ride a couple of his different bikes he's got, so I can go and have fun too. But yeah, we got back to his place at about 7:45 p.m. So 11 hours of riding. I mean, we did stop, but whew, man, it got up to 105 there in one of the towns that we were in, Glens Ferry. Just smoking hot, and it was like, get out there and get going, and it's like, oh, I'm going to speed up because the faster you go, the more cooling effect you have. It seemed like it made the air hotter. It was hot. First part of the day was great. Middle, late part sucked. But the end was good too, because we got down by the river on the way back, Snake River. Literally riding right next to the Snake River there, so it's nice and cool, and yeah, a good 10 or 15 degrees cooler down by the river. So as we cruised for, I don't know, probably a good 45, 50 miles there. But good times. I got some serious two-wheel throttle therapy, gearhead stuff going on there this weekend, and wore the heck out, let me tell you. And it's a hardtail. That's the major drawback there. But still a good time. Really, really good time. Virginia in the house. All right. So, yeah, back to the comment there about all these other different people supposedly making these videos or whatever, saying stuff. How much of it's AI? Those of us are paying attention. Come on. Look at the amount of people that show up for Trump's rallies. Look at the amount of people that, well, they want us to believe, but in reality, how many people show up to a Biden rally event, Harris rally event, whatever, right? Hardtail equals hard ass. You know what? Honestly, the worst thing was my hands. Kept going numb. That bike is engine is solid mount. There's no rubber mounts to it, so it vibrates the entire bike. My back's good. My butt's good. My butt did get a little bit sore there on one stretch where we had rode straight for. We probably rode for almost straight for over an hour. And some bumpy stuff. And yeah, my butt got a little sore on that one. But we pulled over and got some drinks and some water, stuff that we had with us, and cooled off in shade. and I was fine for the rest of the ride and on the way back. So I'm not too old yet, but I definitely feel it. But good times, let me tell you. For those of you that don't understand us gearheads, and getting out there, you know, riding around on a motorcycle, getting it, grabbing gears, rum, 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 rum. There's just nothing else like it, man. Freedom of reign. Go, go, go. Fast as you want to go, slow as you want to go. But, yeah. Well, this particular hardtail has a big foam, cushy seat. The other one that I rode does have a spring seat. This one does not. The one I rode this weekend. The badass chopper. Let's see if I can pull that up. Most people have already seen the yellow bike. But, yeah, it's a shit and getter too, so it ain't no slouch. Yeah, this whole, what I call AI stuff, people out there, again, back to my own Telegram channel. As soon as I switched it over to private, a lot of shit just disappeared. It stopped, like immediately. Hasn't come back at all. There's... Right? Joy out on YouTube here. President Trump was in Asheville, North Carolina Wednesday, and there was so many people that people couldn't get into the venue. Exactly. Just exactly who do they think they're fooling? There's this amount of people showing up to Trump's rallies and stuff. And you're seriously going to try convince the population that there are actually people going to vote for Biden or now Harris? Who in the hell is supporting them? I mean, there obviously there's a few misinformed and ill-informed, ignorant people out there, brainwashed and indoctrinated. But man, there shouldn't be anybody who couldn't see the truth, right? The amount of people that show up to these Trump rallies. Here in my hometown and everywhere I traveled, right? I seen Trump flags, Trump supporter type stuff, memorabilia, whatever, stickers, flags, you name it. All Trump stuff. Never once did I see anything about Biden. No. So, yeah. Yeah. Diesel for We the People news. Have you done superior clause? Can you clarify? Are you talking about the supremacy clause? Article 6, Clause 2? That the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, which literally translates to common law of the land, and that common law is supposed to be our fundamental law, not Roman civil law, the code. And anything that comes in conflict with the supreme law of the land is void for any effect. Anything in the Constitution or laws of a state to the contrary, notwithstanding, which means it has no standing in law, it's void for any effect. Then you got Marbury versus Madison that backs that up regarding that particular supremacy clause. Is that what you're referring to? So remember, what I have been talking about here is different forms of government. Because in today's day and age, man, everybody believes all sorts of different things. We're a democracy. We're this. We're that. We're fascism and all this other stuff. And it's like, it's all just a bunch of shit made up. Don't even know what the hell they're talking about. Ask them to explain some of these terms that they use. They can't even articulate it. And, it's just all, because I do watch some of the new stuff, right? Just to kind of keep tabs on things. And the thing is it's interacting with these other people or reading other people's comments and stuff. I can tell the ones that are just regurgitating what they saw on TV. Now that's the brainwashing and indoctrination stuff. And it's like to the T, word for word. So now that also leads me to believe, are they simply just AI? I mean, what happened with X, Twitter, before it came X? And then once Elon got a hold of it, what was he exposing? This is just a bunch of AI robots, bots. Uh-oh. So how is it, inconceivable that that's actually still happening, just on a different level? Right. Oh, man. Mark, I hear on YouTube, I had to hear Harris talk about equity. Now, that was crazy from an AG. Big joke. Yep. Absolutely. Thomas out here on YouTube. My thoughts on September 18th, Trump going to jail. Do you think it will happen? I swear I thought Supreme Court overturned that case. Now, I know there's just several different cases, so it could not be that particular one. I don't know. But, no. Again, all of that stuff that's going on it's just a show, folks. Okay? Essentially, everything from January of 2021 has all been a show. Most of it's just literally just fake. It's not real. There is no president right now. None. Hasn't been. We're under a continuity of government. We have a commander-in-chief because we're at war. That's how that works. Article 4, Section 4, regarding guaranteed Republican form of government and on application of the legislature or the executive legislature can't be convened for domestic violence, internal insurrection, attempt to overthrow the Constitution, war against the people. That is domestic violence, internal insurrection. That's what domestic violence is. It doesn't have anything to do with so-called domestic relations from the Violence Against Women Act of 1995. Garbage. In fact, again, I'll reiterate, that act is actually domestic violence. Something Chris and I and Nathan and what we were calling that stuff back then is weaponized family courts. All of a sudden we're hearing this stuff about weaponized this and that kind of stuff. That's what we were calling it clear back in 2017. all this weaponization of government, using that against the people. That's domestic violence. Because government, in and of itself, is not supposed to have personal jurisdiction over man and the private. That's how our founders set up our form of government, was to leave the people alone. You're supposed to be taking care of things that are external to the people. Foreign commerce, declaring war, defending the nation, defending the union. You know that union? In order to form a more perfect union, that's in the preamble of the federal constitution there. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union. So it was already a perfect union with the Articles of Confederation, a Confederate Republic, a Confederacy. You know, that's all of this is all weaponization, but then you have to comprehend that's the difference between a common law as a fundamental law and Roman civil law, the code, as a fundamental law. The code is the law. And the Constitution is part of the common law. So, and I'll reiterate this again, under Roman civil law, they don't do constitutions. Law of the land, constitutions, common law of the land. The code is the law. That's it. You know, things like United States Code, Code of Federal Regulations, Uniform Commercial Code, Idaho Code, your state code. It's all code, 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 code. And I found that. It's in the Congressional Acts of 1873, that Code of Civil Procedure Act. That's when they altered the fundamental law from the common law to the code. Idaho, it was in 1881 when they did the Code of Civil Procedure Act. So, you know, I have these facts, the truth of what happened and how it happened, when it happened. Who did what, where, and when. That's why we are where we're at now, is because of the alteration of the fundamental law. You know, they took away our common law power, the people having the power, common law grand juries, common law courts, you know, common law petite juries, you know, trial, an actual common law trial by jury, which starts with a grand jury of 25 men who has to do a grand jury indictment. In all capital or infamous crimes, must have a grand jury, a presentment or indictment of a grand jury. No prosecutions by information. Now let's say, oh, we could still do prosecutions by information. Now, that's the misconception, because what that actually stems from is the grand jury. That's that presentment or indictment. The presentment was on their own information. A grand jury can conduct their own investigation based on their own information. That's a prosecution by information. Not under the code, right? But common law. Under the code, that's just how they do everything. All of it's bills of attainder. That's what it says in Bouvet's Law Dictionary. The code is all enforced by bills of pains and penalties. Bills of attainder are what they call felonies, and then bills of pains and penalties are the misdemeanors. Now, they still play around and pretend like they do grand juries and grand jury indictments and stuff, but it's all trickery. Yeah. Not quite understanding your comment there, Diesel for We the People News. When the father said amend the Constitution S4, more freedom, not more restrictions, I'm not give them more power. Yeah, not quite understanding your comment there, but if you'd like to clarify that. Well, in reading if you're referring to like the Articles of Confederation and making the actual initial Constitution, providing for the ability to declare war and to regulate foreign commerce, but the original intent was supposed to be to make amendments to the Articles of Confederation, which I've covered a little bit of that in that documents illustrative of the formation of the American Union. Or, pardon me, Union of the American States. Again, there it is right in our face again, the Union of the American States. Because that Union is the United States, the states that have united. That's what makes us a confederate or confederacy. A confederate republic, because we have multiple nation states, and like Montesquieu talks about in his Spirit of Law book here that we're going to be tuning into and reading from again tonight, talks about is that they're petty republics. So that's why they're called independent sovereign nation states. But he also talks about if you're going to form this union, a confederacy, they all must be in the same spirit of government, form of government. And that's why it's in Article 4, Section 4 to guarantee a republican form of government. We're not a democracy, although a democracy is part of a republic. So that's what I've covered over the last 2 weeks here. This is basically part 3 now. Getting into these different forms of government and what the spirit is, what the nature is, what it looks like, what these telltale signs of these forms of government. The monarchy, a republic or republican form of government, and a despotic government. Now, under the republican guise of a form of government, it can be a democracy, it can be an aristocracy, or it can be a confederacy. See how it's got that C, democracy, aristocracy. Okay, not an ism, not socialism, communism, fascism. That's an economy. Capitalism, those are isms. That's economy. What we're talking about now is form of government. So this is what makes up our confederacy, and why it's not a democracy or an aristocracy. Is because we've united one nation under God. America is the nation, United States of America. So these are all the states which are actually countries, because like the law of nations talks about, that a nation is composed of all of the countries. Why does each so-called state have its own flag? That is an indicator that that is a country. So we're quite unique here. And again, basically a one-of-a-kind form of government, because we're not quite a democracy. We're definitely not an aristocracy. Most certainly not a monarchy. So then what are we? The only choice really left is a confederacy republic. Because those are really the only forms of government that actually existed at the time that everybody knew that was into, law stuff. Everybody knew that back then. There wasn't all these other fancy bar word salad words out there. Yep. Oh, there's a good crypto cafe. Does a treaty triumph a constitution? No. No. No, 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 no. See, the Constitution is the instrument of government. It creates the legislative, executive, and judicial branch, and it delegates certain limited powers. Let's read that. Right there in the Constitution itself. And all treaties which shall be made has to be pursuant to the Constitution. And treaties are basically an alliance, right? That's an alliance. Like a treaty of peace. Okay? So let's look at the federal constitution and what it says as it is written, and then comprehend it. And then understand it. Back to that supremacy clause, right? All debts, contract, engagements entered before the adoption of this Constitution shall be valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. This Constitution, the laws of the United States, which shall be made pursuant thereof, and all treaties made, which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. Now, they cannot exceed the authority delegated. It has to be under the authority of the United States. Now, this is where we got to get into what was the authority to make treaties. But I mean, let's just go to etymology first of all, and let's look up what the heck a treaty is. Late 14th century, discussion, negotiation, agreement, contract, and accord. From Anglo-French, assembly, agreement, dealings, discussion, handling, management. To handle, manage, the sense of a contract or league between two or more nations or sovereigns solemnly ratified by the supreme power of each. This is attested early 15th century. Middle English, also times now obsolete sense of treatise. Discourse. So, no, a treaty cannot subvert the Constitution. It is not higher than the Constitution. It's the supreme law of the land. This land, in America, it is the supreme law. What does it actually protect? Because remember, we have to comprehend what is the intent of creating government to begin with. Was to secure these rights. Governments are instituted among men receiving their just powers under the consent of the governed. Oh. And is subject to that authority. So, how is that possible? So, no. A treaty that comes in conflict with the Constitution would be void for any effect from its inception for fraud. Again, there shall be no law impairing the obligations of a contract with the exception of fraud. If our public servants make a treaty that's outside their scope and authority to make, that's an usurpation of power. That's maladministration. That's subversion of law. That's seditious conspiracy to overthrow the law. That's treason. All right. Let's get into that particular, back to Montesquieu over here, because where we left off was about virtue. What is virtue? And I believe this is where I left off. Was that on section 5, the virtue, that virtue is not the principle of a monarchical government. So let's learn about why monarchies do not like virtue. That it's not a principle set in stone. In monarchies, policy affects great things with as little virtue as possible. Thus, in the nicest machines, art has reduced the number of movements, springs, and wheels. The state subsists independently of the love of our country, of the thirst of true glory, of self-denial, of the sacrifice of our dearest interest, and of all those heroic virtues which we admire in the ancients, and to us are known only by tradition. The laws supply here the place of those virtues. They are by no means wanted, and the state dispenses with them. An action performed here in secret is in some measure of no consequence. Though all crimes be in their own nature public, yet there is a distinction between crimes really public and those that are private, which are so called because they are more injurious to individuals than to the community. Now, in republics, private crimes are more public. That is, they attack the Constitution more than they do individuals. And in monarchies, public crimes are more private. That is, they are more prejudicial to private people than to the Constitution. Which, I don't know if I exactly agree with that, because if they're in the public, then those are public crimes. If you're in the private, then that's a private crime. That's just my common sense kicking in. I beg that no one will be offended with what I have been saying. My observations are found in the unanimous testimony of historians. Yes. This is the one part I was talking about before, about how Montesquieu talks about right here, is that, you know, this isn't, he's not talking out of his rear end here. He's actually, you know, going through the unanimous testimonies of historians in the time that he wrote this in the early 1700s. I am not ignorant that virtuous princes are so very rare, but I venture to affirm that in a monarchy it is extremely difficult for the people to be virtuous. Let us compare what the historians of all ages have asserted concerning the courts of monarchs. Let us recollect the conversations and sentiments of people of all countries in respect to the wretched character of courtiers, and we shall find that these are not airy speculations, but truths confirmed by a sad and melancholy experience. I know that word too. It's I have a hard time saying that word. Ambition in idleness means melancholy. Okay. Yeah, something like that. Meanness mixed with... Okay. Ambition is idleness. Meanness mixed with pride. A desire of riches without industry. Aversion to truth. Flattery. Perfidy. That's one of my favorite words. Perfidy. Violation of engagements. contempt of civil duties. Are courtiers brown noser opportunists? Yeah, I would assume that that's kind of what that's actually is, the court jesters, people of the courts. Contempt of civil duties. That's like that usurpation of power, or derelict of duty, right? Fear of the prince's virtue. Hope from this weakness, but, above all, a perpetual ridicule cast upon virtue are, I think, the characteristics by which most courtiers in all ages and countries have been constantly distinguished. Now, it is exceedingly difficult for the leading men of the nation to be naives, and the inferior sort to be honest. For the former to be cheats, and the latter to rest satisfied with being only dupes. Well, there is that. But if there should chance to be some unlucky honest man among the people, Cardinal this guy, in his political testament, seems to hint that a prince should take care not to employ him. Yes, melancholy. Yeah, I think that's it. Well, anyways. So what is... Maybe that's part of my problem, right? Is I am an honest man. And I try to tell the truth all the time. I try to share the truth, learn the truth, study it, research it, and share it. Maybe that's why I'm not, I don't have millions of followers, and I'm not out there in the, I don't know, the mainstream of the so-called high up people. I don't care, right? The way I look at it, those of you that want to learn the truth, real law, and due process of law, are here. So thank you all for those that are here right now watching, and those that watch later. I know that there are several people that, time-wise, they just can't make it on Monday Night Law. I see the views. They go up big time. By Tuesday night, views are like doubled. But, as it is right now, we've got 39 people over here on Rumble, and total over here YouTube 47, and so we're roughly over 100 people watching live right now. I don't even know how many we got on Telegram. Again, it doesn't actually show me how many people are here. But roughly speaking, right around 100 people watching live right now. Okay, so it says 17. So yeah, 17. So we're right around 100 people. You 100 people are here for a reason. Now, some of you may have nefarious reasons, but for the most part, I genuinely believe that the people that are here are interested in actually learning the truth, are fed up with the corruption, sick of this crap. That's why you're here. Not because you like me, because you don't have to like me to learn the truth. Don't shoot the messenger. So, props to you truth seekers out there. That's why you're here. So, God bless you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Dreaming Deer. I feel honored to be here. Well, I feel honored that people are here watching that follow me. Let's not be dupes. Let's not be duped. But if there should chance to be some unlucky, honest man among the people, in his Old Testament seems to hint that a prince should take care not to employ him. You know, something that Jason mentioned earlier about not taking bribes. That's what this is about. Integrity. Virtuous man. You know, being able to know the law, like if I were as a public servant, I would know what the limitations of my scope and authority is and never to exceed that. Also to ensure that I do perform my duties with the utmost vigor, with virtue, moral turpitude to the fullest extent. So true is it that virtue is not the spring of this government. We're talking about the monarchy. It is not indeed excluded, but it is not the spring of government. In what manner virtue is supplied in a monarchical government? But it is high time for me to have done with this subject, lest I should be suspected of writing a satire against monarchical government. Far be it from me. If monarchy wants one spring, it is provided with another. Honor, that is, the prejudice of every person in rank, supplies the place of the political virtue of which I have been speaking, and is everywhere her representative. Here it is capable of inspiring the most glorious actions, and joined with the force of laws, may lead us to the end of government, as well as virtue itself. Hence, in well-regulated monarchies, they are almost all good subjects, and very few good men. For to be a good man, a good intention is necessary, and we should love our country, not so much on our own account, as out of regard to the community. Gee, I wonder if why it's of the people, by the people, for the people. And in the Virginia Declaration of Rights, June 12, 1776, is the theoretical foundation of all government. We're supposed to have Christian love, charity, and forbearance, and without the use of force and violence. That's virtue, that's fundamental principles of our republic, as it was declared. We're supposed to be taking care of ourselves. We're supposed to be watchful for any these slight or slow encroachments on our rights. And we, the people as in the community, are supposed to stand up against this despotic government, against tyranny. But again, we've gotten to a point where society as a whole is so dumbed down, they don't even know what's lawful and what's unlawful, because nobody reads. You know, nobody's read. Nobody was taught this stuff on purpose. So don't feel bad because you don't know something. Okay? It's okay not to know something. That's one of those little weird life lessons that I don't know. My boss back in, what was it, 1993-ish there, I was having a hard time out in the shop, and I just come out and he's like, "What's going on out here?" Blah, blah, blah. And I'm ranting and raving, having a hard time. And he's like, "You know what? It's okay not to know something. You can come and ask me. You got a question on something, you having a hard time with something, come talk to me." I'm like, "What? What do you mean? It's okay not to know something? I'm supposed to just figure this out, right?" Now, so, you know, first time I'd ever heard anybody tell me that, and I was just barely 21. So, I'm going to pass that on to you folks. It's okay not to know something, which is probably another reason why you're here. Because you're seeking truth just like I am. I'm just the one that has the time that I've dedicated myself to this. This is what I do. This is my life. I mean, yeah, I've got other things going on. I go try to enjoy life a little bit here and there. But I can tell you right now, since about 2015, I've been seriously dedicated to reading, studying, and putting this stuff out, trying to educate my fellow man and help my fellow man. Because in the end, it's going to help me. It's going to affect me. I'm just one man. By spreading this knowledge, knowledge is power. And it takes we, the people, coming together, uniting together. Good question. I hear Rebel Destry. It's good to be here, to learn, but if the knowledge is never executed, what is its value? Again, knowledge is power. Once we gain the power, then we have to learn how to wield that power following due process of law, because we want to be a virtuous society. We want to make sure that we're as fair as possible in favor of the man, in favor of the people. You know, there was a saying out there, and I can't remember who it was that was talking about it. It was one of our prestigious elites, in our forms of government at one point in time, was talking about it would be better to set one actual guilty man free than to convict 11 or whatever of innocent men. Wouldn't want to let one man go free. Oh, you would rather convict 11 innocent men? It's about being virtuous, a virtuous society. The principle of monarchy. A monarchical government supposes, as we have already observed, preeminences and ranks, different classes of people, or subjects. Should use the proper term there for a monarchy as subjects. You're subject of the king. Everybody's a subject. There's different classes, and then you got titles of nobility, those ranks, as likewise a noble descent. Now, since it is the nature of honor to aspire to preferments and titles, it is properly placed in this government. Ambition is pernicious in a republic. But in a monarchy, it has some good effects. It gives life to the government and is attended with this advantage, that it is in no way dangerous, because it may be continually checked. It is with this kind of government, as with the system of the universe, in which there is a power that constantly repels all bodies from the center, and a power of gravitation that attracts them to it. Honor sets all the parts of the body politic in motion, and by its very action connects them. Let me read that again. Honor sets all the parts of the body politic in motion, and by its very action connects them. Part of being a virtuous society. Honor, integrity. Thus, Each individual advances the public good while he only thinks of promoting his own interest. Yeah, there is that. True it is that philosophically speaking, it is a false honor which moves all the parts of the government. But even this false honor is as useful to the public as a true honor could possibly be to private persons. It is not very exacting to oblige men to perform the most difficult actions, such as requiring an extraordinary exertion of fortitude and resolution, without other recompense than that of glory and applause. Oh, is it not very exacting to oblige men to perform the most difficult actions, such as required? Okay. In other words, perform their duties exactly how it's supposed to be done, following like due process of law and those kinds of things. Without other recompense than that of glory and applause. Well, thank you for doing your job. Yay! That's what you get. What else do you want? Oh, are you a greedy sucker? That honor is not the principle of despotic government. Honor is far from being the principle of a despotic government. Mankind being here all upon a level, no one person can prefer himself to another. And as on the other hand, they are all slaves. They can give themselves no sort of preference. Besides, as honor has its laws and rules, as it knows not how to submit, as it depends in a great measure on a man's own caprice, and not on that of another person. It can be found only in countries in which the Constitution is fixed and where they are governed by settled laws. How can despotism abide with honor? The one glories in the contempt of life, and the other is founded on the power of taking it away. This is why our founders wrote the Declaration of Independence, as well as the Declaration for the Cause and Necessity of Taking Up Arms. All these grievances, all these usurpations of power, all of this tyranny, this despotism. Some of the very same exact things that we're dealing with today. Again, and I'm going to reiterate this again, this is not the first time in history we've been here. Not at all. This has been the same problem over and over and over and over, all throughout history, for a long time, thousands of years. Okay? How can despotism abide with honor? Can't. The one glories in the contempt of life, and the other is founded on the power of taking it away. How can honor, on the other hand, bear with despotism? The former has its fixed rules and peculiar caprices, but the latter is directed by no rule, and its own caprices and subversive of all others. So, when we talk about, hey, you're violating my rights, that's what we're talking about, despotism. Because the rights are fixed. Right? This is supposed to be common sense law. Because these are all rights that we have in common. So how is it could any man claim he doesn't know them? Except by ignorance. But it should be self-evident, right? Some of the more basic fundamental rights. And they still trample all over them. That is being subversion of law. Because rights are the law. Again, they're synonymous. It comes from the French word droit, meaning right or law. Honor, therefore, a thing unknown in arbitrary governments, some of which have not even a proper word to express it, is the prevailing principle in monarchies. Here it gives life to the whole body politic, to the laws, and even to the virtues themselves. Man. Of the principle of despotic government, as virtue is necessary in a republic and in a monarchy honor, so fear is necessary in a despotic government. Fear. That's the other thing. That is what I think is one of the most common factors of why we're having such a hard time reassembling government de jure. The general jural assemblies are the common law side of our republic before the Constitution. Is out of fear. One, fear, lack of knowledge, and worried about getting in trouble, not knowing how to effectively defend yourself. That's understandable. And of course, with the mainstream media, the news, and all that stuff, one man over here gets screwed over, and they put it out like that. So that is to curtail anybody else because they got you in fear. Like, for instance, blows my mind. You have farmers out there, and you got these the EPA or whatever, the FDA, whoever they are, these jackwagons are, who come in there flashing their fancy badges. Well, I'm with the government, and you can't sell your milk to your neighbors. You can't sell your garden, your carrots, your potatoes, your onions, or whatever you decide to grow there. You can't sell them to your neighbors. Who are you? And you got about 4 seconds to make movement to get off my frickin' private property, or we're going to have some serious problems. That's the answer right there. And your neighbors, the ones that are part of it, should be coming to your aid, taking up arms against a despotic government. Because that goes back to the fundamental principle of the right of personal security, the right of personal liberty, and the right of private property. They have no authority over us at all. None. We only delegated what? Certain authority to regulate foreign commerce. One of the statements made in the Declaration for the Cause and Necessity of Taking Up Arms was interdicting all commerce onto the people. That's exactly what I'm referring to. Now, when it comes to dealing with that kind of stuff, then that's where we're supposed to do what? A petition to the legislature for the redress of grievances. Hey, this thing you created over here is unlawful or acting unlawful. Need you to do an investigation to verify my claims that they're acting unlawful. And, this is, again, where we're supposed to have that power of the petite jury under the common law, a real trial by jury to judge both the law and the facts. We, the people, would go in this situation. The farmer would say, hey, these guys came over and did this, this, and this. Well, that's not lawful. In fact, the grand jury would do the investigation. This was true, lawful, common law grand juries. And the grand jury would indict the public servants right from the get-go. They'd nip that right in the butt. Again, they don't want us to have that power, folks. Because there would, how very little despotism we would have And anything that decided to raise its ugly head, even in just one little city, if the people knew how to do this, were lawfully assembled, and we were in control of government de jure, our lawful grand juries, we would nip this despotic government right in the butt real quick. That's what we need to get back to. But we have to learn that we actually have this power. And it has to be done as a whole by the people, right? One man cannot do this by himself. I can't do it by myself. Again, one of the reasons why I'm here. Trying to educate my fellow men to come together so that we, the people, do this together. All right. We'll start again. As virtue is necessary in a republic and in a monarchy honor, so fear is necessary in a despotic government. With regard to virtue, there is no occasion for it, and honor would be extremely dangerous. Here, in the immense power of the prince devolves entirely upon those whom he is pleased to entrust with the administration. Persons capable of setting a value upon themselves would be likely to create disturbances. Fear must therefore depress their spirits and extinguish even the least sense of ambition. Oh, well, I see a comment out here. Johnny Black Cloud on YouTube. Why is it taking so long for this storm that's supposed to bring down this system? The election illusion not going to fix anything? Well, because we're dealing with things that have taken a few thousand years to get to. Especially with the birth certificate, the Federal Reserve, fiat currency, the whole international banking system, and all that stuff. You know, just that little tiny bits and pieces there that I just mentioned initially stems from the Sestake Trust Act of 1666. So just from 1666 to 1933 is how long it took to get that implemented. This stuff isn't just going to get taken down overnight. And then we're dealing with much greater things than that. We're dealing with Satanists, right? We're dealing with people who do satanic rituals, who torture babies, who murder babies, who torture men, women, and children for whatever purpose, organ harvesting, whatever purpose they want. These people are sick, and there's a lot of them. And the higher up you go, the worse it gets. Worldwide. How come you haven't taken them down yet? These things take time. There's a lot of people to take down. And it's, you know, like Trump said, this was much bigger than they thought. Because I do truly believe that it was going to happen there during the whole COVID thing. Remember when the courts were shut down? Couldn't do trials? I thought it was actually going to happen then. But it is happening. Little bits and pieces at a time. We just have to open our eyes and realize that it is happening. The facts, you know, again, how does Trump do treaties of peace with all these other countries, nation states, if we're not at war? Executive Order 13818. These things take time. Furthermore, where are the people at? You got a problem in your local area. Well, let's get the people together and let's take care of business. What are we waiting for? Oh, lack of knowledge. Fear. Fear is necessary in a despotic government. So, hopefully that answered your question. The fact is, it is happening. There's just a lot to take care of. You know, I heard not too long ago, maybe a little over a year ago, that Gitmo was getting full. And Trump had a whole bunch of new military and all that, had a whole bunch of new facilities, buildings built down there at Guantanamo Bay. Lots and lots of jail cells, new ones built. And they're full. Okay? So, again, it's not like that it's not happening. But I'm going to go back to all political power is inherent in the people. Trump, at his inauguration speech, flat out told everyone, I'm putting the power back into the people's hands. Where are the people? Of the people, by the people, for the people. That's our form of government. Where are the people? You seriously want things to change? Let's go. So, that's it. It's our own fault. Let's point the finger where it belongs, on the people. I agree. Ken out here on YouTube said the People's Republic has not rised fast enough as he asked upon us in the inauguration. Because we're all freaking dumbed down and indoctrinated. And living in fear. Fear of standing up. But God tells us 365 times in the Bible to not fear. And I will attest to this. Knowledge has literally empowered me. And I can tell you right now, my fear level is very, very, very minimal. And I mean with regard to my actions, my conduct, going outside, going out and doing whatever I want to do, so long as I do not cause injury, loss, or harm to my fellow man, I have the right to be secure. I know my rights. And I know how to effectively defend myself. And they know it now too. They're wanting to get the heck away from me. But we have to gain that knowledge. And we need to learn how to effectively defend ourselves. You know, doing the paperwork. It's what it takes. On an individual level. So, that's the truth. The whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Has to be done by the people. No member of the bar is going to do this for us. The military, not going to do this for us. They're going to take down the corruption at some particular point in time. But again, that's what martial law will be under martial law until the people reassemble. Or we just flat up give up and we just, I don't know, choose to live under despotism for the rest of our lives. Not me. Give me liberty or give me death, to quote Patrick Henry. I'm fighting with my brain first, because that's how we're supposed to do that. Warhorse for Liberty. I'm not sure what's going on with the Idaho farmers and the water issue down there. I've been pretty dang busy in my personal life here, working on remodeling this house, and yeah, trying to study and do everything else too, and have some fun somewhere in there. All right, so under this despotic government, the principle of despotic government, a moderate government may, whenever it pleases, and without the least danger, relax its springs. It supports itself by the laws and by its own internal strength. But when a despotic prince ceases for one single moment to uplift his arm, when he cannot instantly demolish those whom he has entrusted with the first employments, all is over. For as fear, the spring of this government, no longer subsists, the people are left without a protector. I'll add that when the people are derelict in their duties, we end up without a protector. What are we doing these days? Somebody tries to break into your house, you're calling somebody with a gun and hope like hell they get there in time. Why are we not equipped to handle that on our own? In fact, there was just a deal here not too long ago. It was out on the mainstream media news. The sheriff talking about this criminal guy going through people's houses trying to get away from the cops, and going through one of the houses there, they shot at him. And the sheriff come out and said, hey, look, you're not in any kind of trouble, but we would like to offer some free training on how to shoot better, so next time you won't miss and you'll save the taxpayers a whole lot of money. What's he saying? You got somebody breaking into your house, you can shoot them. Damn straight, people. You have the right to defend your property as you see fit. It sucks to be them who trespass upon our property. Trespass upon our rights. Now, I don't advocate for violence. I don't. But there comes a time when we have to defend ourselves. And that's a fundamental, absolute right from the laws of nature. The right of self-defense. Supreme Court just recently ruled on that back in June of 2022, right? In the Bruin case. Citing from Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law of England, which I've covered previously, under that the first primary absolute right of personal security. There are 5 different elements. One of them is the right to life. Gee, I wonder that life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. That's that personal security, life, personal liberty, and private property. That's that pursuit of happiness, is to pursue the acquiring and possessing and utilizing our private property how we see fit, which none of those rights can be deprived except by the consent of a jury or the law of the land. Not any statutes, regulations, policy, rule making, right? Because they're absolute. YouTube out here, Third Eye Knowledge. We don't have the power till we assemble. Is this right? Well, we don't have the power to control government if we're not lawfully assembled. We still have all of our rights. We still have the right to petition. We still have the right to file lawsuits. We still have those fundamental principles, those rights. But if we're talking about government as a whole, government de jure, lawful government, we have to have the people assembled. That's the internal combustion engine. Will an engine run without a crankshaft? Will an engine run without cylinder heads? Will an engine run without an intake manifold? Will an engine run without a carburetor? I'll speak from my own personal experience. The answer is no. In any one of those given situations, there's no way I can make that engine run. So government is not going to function like a well-oiled machine like it's supposed to be when it's all properly, lawfully assembled. We have to assemble the machine. All of it. But at the bare minimum, the people have to come together, do their covenant, which is unto God. You're making a covenant with God, saying, hey, I will uphold your law, God. And the oath is that maxim of law that there's no firmer bond among men than an oath. That's what binds us together as the people. That honor, that integrity, that virtue. That you can depend on me or your fellow man, one of the people that has done his covenant and his oath. To pledge their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to defend your fellow man from despotism, from tyranny, from corruption. But when a despotic prince ceases for one single moment to uplift his arm, when he cannot instantly demolish those whom he has entrusted with the first employments, all is over. That's us right now. We're not properly, lawfully assembled, so we don't have the power to lift up an arm and assemble the grand jury and indict the public servant, the ones we've entrusted with the first employment. They're not going to do it. They're all in it for themselves. That's why it has to be done by the people. And without the people, how's it going to happen? There's nobody there to make it happen. Just saying. All comes back to that. We are left without a protector because the people are not assembled. It is probably in this sense that Cadis maintained that the Grand Signior was not obliged to keep his word or oath when he limited thereby his authority. I would say that wouldn't dispose you from your oath, but it is necessary that the people should be judged by laws, and the great men by the caprice of the prince, that the lives of the lowest subject should be safe, and the pasha's head ever in danger. We cannot mention these monstrous governments without horror. The Sophie of Persia, dethroned in our days by Muhammad, the son of Arabius, saw the Constitution subverted before this resolution because he had been too sparing of blood. What do you think they're talking about there? Too sparing of blood. Too slow to act. Now I'm going to have to go look that up. Do I really want to? But there's something going on here that he's talking about that happened in moment of time. Talking about a monstrous government. What a horror it was for them back in those days. History informs us that the horrid cruelties of Domitian struck such a terror into the governors that the people recovered themselves a little during his reign. Thus a torrent overflows one side of a country and on the other leaves fields untouched, where the eye is refreshed by the prospect of fine meadows. So yeah, we could have, a small group of men in one place and just right across the border, state line, whatever. Things are good over here, but not so good over there. Because the people are not. Right? Karen, now here on YouTube, corrupt governments will never prosecute the corrupt. That's where we the people come in. Exactly. Section 10 here. Difference of obedience in moderate and despotic governments. In despotic states, the nature of government requires the most passive obedience. And when once the prince's will is made known, it ought infallibly to produce its effect. Where they have no limitations or restrictions, no mediums, terms, equivalents, or remonstrances, protests, no change to propose. Man is a creature that blindly submits to the absolute will of the sovereign. I don't know, people. We got to make this happen. In a country like this, they are no more allowed to represent their apprehensions of a future danger than to impute their miscarriage to the capriciousness of fortune. Man's proportion here, like that of beasts, is instinct, compliance, and punishment. Boy, have we lost our basic instincts. The right of preservation. Little does it then avail to plead the sentiments of nature. Filial respect, conjugal, or parental tenderness, the laws of honor or want of health. That sounds like part of the laws of nature. Sentiments of nature. The order is given and that is sufficient. In Persia, when the king has condemned a person, it is no longer lawful to mention his name or to intercede in his favor, even if the prince were intoxicated or competent. The decree must be executed. Otherwise, he would contradict himself, and the law admits of no contradiction. This has been the way of thinking in that country in all ages, as the order which Cyrus gave to exterminate the Jews could not be revoked. They were allowed the liberty of defending themselves. Again, remember when this was written? Early 1700s? One thing, however, may be sometimes opposed to the prince's will, namely, religion. Many wars have been fought over religion. I'll say that. Or in the name of religion. They will abandon, nay, they will slay a parent, if the prince so commands, but he cannot oblige them to drink wine. The laws of religion are of a superior nature, because they bind the sovereign as well as the subject. When religion is taken in as an ideology and a set of principles, virtue sets up a virtuous society, that fundamental law, then it's good. But when they try to use that to dictate to the people, that's a little bit different story. But with respect to the law of nature, it is otherwise. The prince is no longer supposed to be a man. Yeah, he's a person. Because a prince is a title. That's a person. It's not man. It takes a man to act as a prince. What are the powers of the prince? That's the mind control. To control the mind of the man is to control the actions he takes by the limitations of the authority granted as prince. In monarchical and moderate states, the power is limited by its very spring. I mean, by honor, which, like a monarch, reigns over the prince and his people. They will not allege to their sovereign the laws of religion. A courtier would be apprehensive of rendering himself ridiculous, but the laws of honor will be appealed to on all occasions. Imagine that. Hence arise the restrictions necessary to obedience. Honor is naturally subject to whims, by which the subject's submission will be ever directed. Talk about remaining in honor at all times. That's part of that, integrity of doing the right thing when nobody else is looking, when nobody else is watching. Sometimes the people depend on our servants, public servants in our republic, to remain in honor. But they don't. Some of them don't act honorably. Though the manner of obeying be different in these two kinds of government, the power is the same. So somewhere along the lines there, they have a choice. Imagine that. On which side soever the monarch turns, he inclines the scale and is obeyed. The whole difference is that in a monarchy, the prince receives instruction at the same time that his ministers have greater abilities and are more versed in public affairs than in ministers of a despotic government. Yeah, because in a despotic, they just want to do what they want to do for their own benefit. They could care less about the people that it affects. I wonder if we're getting close to this end. Yes. Perfect. Perfect end. Reflections on the preceding chapters. Such are the principles of the three sorts of government, which does not imply that in a particular republic they actually are, but that they ought to be virtuous. Nor does it prove that in a particular monarchy they are actuated by honor, or in a particular despotic government by fear, but that they ought to be directed by these principles, otherwise the government is imperfect. So basically, these things are all set up. It's all put in place, these fundamental principles, how this should function, how it should run, the internal combustion engine, how it should run, how it should work. But all it takes is one little thing to go wrong. And it can be catastrophic. You know, a rod bearing goes in an engine and it punches a hole in the block if it decides to let go, stretches the bolts and bolt snaps, and that rod comes flying out of the side of the block. That engine's done. There's no fixing the block. It blew up. That's literally blew up. So we need to, again, we need the people. There's no other way around this, folks. It's an absolute. We have to reassemble. We have to take our powers back, and we have to take control of our government. I mean, our basic form of government has been running around with the check engine light since 1863. It ain't running right. It's providing some essential governmental services, but we the people aren't keeping the corruption in check, this despotism in check, keeping it out of our republic. Again, due to lack of knowledge, education, on purpose. Mark Vaughn, CPS quits working, yeah. Crank position sensor, right. Or CAS, crank angle sensor. So this is the website here for national-assembly.net. These are the guys that have, been in this for quite some time. Carl Miller talked about this. Carl Miller was part of this, the Michigan Assembly stuff. Okay, these guys have the support of the military. This is the legitimate, the real deal. Thursday nights calls. Right here, conference call info, the second tab, right next to the home tab. And again, I'm going to reiterate that I highly recommend people download and install the app, the free conference call app, whether it's on your desktop, computer, laptop, what have you, or any smart devices, smartphones. There's 2 different videos here for on YouTube, however, tutorial videos on how to get that set up. It's pretty simple, but some people may need some help. So there's links to that. Okay? Then this is the actual meeting. The link right there. Okay? This is the actual link. Again, if you install the free conference call app, once you click on this once, it'll store it in there, and you don't necessarily have to come back right here to get that link every single time. Okay? So there's the forums and blogs, the National Assembly forums. Get down here, scroll down a little bit here where it's talks about, here it is, the 50 nation states. Come find your state. introduce yourself. Introductions. Get on the call. Content manager #1 at yahoo.com to say, hey, I'm from Texas and I'd like to get involved. Come in here and go to the Texas forums right there. Okay, Texas General Chat, Texas Introduction. Every single one of them is exactly the same. Lots of good reading, all sorts of reading stuff in here. Okay. And then the resources, current situation, where are we? Where are we the people? Where are you at? (1638) Fundamental Orders, Assembly supporting videos, important censored videos, 10 steps to an assembly. There we go. Whoa. Here's the Michigan's National Assembly Handbook type deal. The TM 2000-25, that is the Military Training Manual, or the Citizenship Manual. This is part of the stuff that Carl Miller was talking about a long time ago, in the early 90s. Okay. Jason from his Hardline, who I was on his podcast tonight, right before the show, talking about our Confederate Republic stuff. Okay. He went over the training manual. Some podcast on assembly stuff. And then here's his website. Okay. Podbean, that's the way to get a hold of him. So when you get to that, where'd I go? There it is. Get to the website, that'll direct you all over there. Okay. Now for me, my website, kirkslawcorner.com. Up here are the links to my social media. I don't think, I haven't even talked to Miles yet to see if he's fixed the Telegram link. Probably not. He's probably been busy too. But Facebook, Patreon, that's the P, YouTube, Rumble, and X. Now, I'll be honest again, most everything I do is on Telegram, so I'm going to have to get that link out there for Telegram for people to join. Now, private channel, it's been a heck of a lot more quiet and peaceful in there. Educational series over there on YouTube. I've added a few videos in there, three more videos on top of the 8. Free to watch anytime you want. There's the link right here on the website. Watch on YouTube. Go to the playlist. Wednesday night workshop was on Patreon. You can click on that. That'll take you to Patreon as well. Get signed up if you want to be in the private classes Wednesday night. If you'd like to help support me, that's Tier 1, Tier 2. If you're looking for one-on-one time with me, help you with your case, help educate you on the law and what, how to effectively defend yourself. That's the one-on-one stuff, okay? But if you'd like to help support, Tier 1's $5 a month. Tier 2 is $10 a month. It's a cup of coffee a month. 1 cup of coffee. Address right here at the office. 6477 West Fairview Avenue, Suite G, as in golf, Boise, Idaho 3704. Shout out to Miles for the website. Thank you, brother. Maintains this. Other than that, if anybody wants to send private donations to me over to the office, send that through the snail mail, cash wrapped aluminum foil, any of that other funny stuff, postal money orders, regular money orders, doesn't matter. Okay? I appreciate those that have supported give support. Thank you all for being here. Don't forget the library tab here for more reading. Okay? All sorts of good stuff in here to read from, aside from what I show on the screen now. But good to go. We really, really, really need to bring the people together, folks. There's just no other way around this. It's not the government is not the way it's designed. It's designed for the people to be the mechanism to make everything function, to be self-governed. So it's up to us to do that. Okay? Spread the word. Share like wildfire, folks. Gotta start talking to your neighbors. Get this stuff, this information out there. Let's bring the people together. Let's do this. We can do this. All political power is inherent in the people. That's it. Ain't nobody else got that power but us, the people. Alright? Thank you all for being here. God bless. God bless the world. Thanks to the prayer warriors out there. Keep up your good work. Praying for everybody out here. Prayer for me as well as everybody else. Thank you. God bless. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you Wednesday night for Wednesday night workshop for those of you in there. Thursday night on the National Assembly call. All right? Good night.